Okay. Hello and welcome back to my channel. It is called the Recycled Cottage and Garden. Um, I'm not in a cottage. I am in an apartment, but most everything that's here is recycled, usually from a thrift store, or something that I made myself from something that was recycled. Um, Normally, you see me at my desk, and today I'm just sitting in my chair because I'm just going to sit and talk for a little bit. And what I'm doing is there's a website called tinybuddha.com, and I'm not Buddhist, I'm a Christian. Um, but they have some really good uh, little sayings that they post on Twitter that I like and that are upbeat and positive. And there is a series that they've posted on their website called the ABCs of Growth. So I'm taking February and we're going to go through those ABCs. And the first one is acknowledge. And what it is to acknowledge your talents and your abilities and the growth that has come from them or can come from them and how to grow in the future with it. So, what are my talents and abilities? Well, I'm very crafty. I like making, uh, for the most part, beaded jewelry, stringing beads, and so forth. Um, Growing into that, I'm going to be trying out some. I've been branching out a little bit in how I put the beads together to be more creative with it. But I'm also going to branch out into doing some um, beaded work on fabric and turning them into bracelet cuffs. I have done soldered pendants when that was a big thing. I have very few left. I did sell 5 items this week to the same lady, and we reworked the necklaces a little bit. She liked the sari ribbons that I'd put on one, so we're going to do sari ribbons on the rest. Um, but other than that, yeah, I was really glad to sell the last few that were not saints. Um, so I do have a handful of saint items left. And if anyone's interested in any of the jewelry that I make or the journals that I make, there is a link in my About page for eBay, Etsy, and Poshmark. I need to do a little updating, I think. But I generally refer people to either eBay or Etsy. The prices are a little bit more reasonable unless you just absolutely love Poshmark. I do have to mark them up for there because they take a double the percentage as their fee. So I do make jewelry of various kinds, and I do make journals. I got into that about 2 years ago, and I take old books, take the pages out, sew in my own signatures of what pages that I want to put in it, decorate the covers, and you've got a brand new journal that's unique and nobody else is going to have one. I don't do repeats. I don't do multiples of the same thing. They're always going to be a little bit different somewhere along the line. Um, I do have plans for growth this year, and because I have some ideas on some more creative styled journals, a little more themed. The ones I've got right now, except for just a couple, are pretty much generic, which is always good to have. They've not moved as fast as I had hoped that they would, but I have sold a couple, and they're not real expensive to make at this point because I have a stash of stuff. So I'm trying to use up my stash. Same with the jewelry, the beading. I have 30 boxes of beads and assorted stuff, and I'm trying to use up what I have before I buy anything else. So that's going to take me a while. What other talents do I have? Let's see. Well, I love to read. I collect vintage or antique cookbooks. Pre 1900 for the most part is what I have left. I did have to downsize when I moved because there wasn't going to be room for it. I had over 200 cookbooks. Um, and at this point, I have less than 100. So it's probably 50 to 75. Some of them are smaller, skinny. But I kept the oldest ones. Um, I prefer to cook that way, actually. Very plain dishes. I don't do fancy things. I don't like to use processed things like processed canned soups and boxed things. And, they're fine on an occasion. But for the most part, I like to cook with a piece of chicken, a raw vegetable, that kind of thing. And I'll make my own casseroles with whatever. And I have not made my own pastas. I will buy pastas if that's what's got to go in it. I'm trying not to eat that because I'm trying to get back fully onto keto again. Because I feel a lot better eating that way. And plus side is you lose weight. Anyway, other abilities. So I can cook. Nothing fancy. I like to can. I like to can my own food. Um, I have a bit here that I can use. My canning supplies are still in Texas, but I'll get those eventually up here um, and be able to can again. But it's not something I have to do right this moment. I could only afford to ship so much stuff here. It was not an option to rent a truck or anything for various reasons. And so most everything that I have here, some has been left with my parents at their house, but everything that I have here, I if it didn't fit in my car the last 2 days before I left, then it had to be shipped. And actually, the postal service was the most inexpensive way to do that, and they did a good job. I only had one box that was slightly damaged, but nothing broken inside, so I was thrilled with that. In fact, the only broken piece I had was a bowl that was inside another bowl. I forgot to put padding in between, and it was actually in the car. And, whatever with the drive and them bringing totes and boxes into the apartment, one bowl got basically smashed. Not a big deal. It was a thrift store find for 50 cents. I did like it, but it was very heavy. But my favorite bowl survived, and that's the main thing. Anyway, got off topic. I like to do genealogy. I've done that for almost 30 years. And a friend took me with a little piece of paper of information that I had from an aunt, and I found ancestors the very first day she took me to the genealogical library. We don't have a genealogical library here in this little town in Colorado, so thankfully there are a lot of places online you can go to do that. And so I haven't really pulled any out since I've moved 3 months ago. I guess almost 4 months ago. Um, I've got other things I'm working on. I'm trying to upgrade and make more jewelry and stuff to sell. Because when I was doing all of this, the eBay, Etsy, and Poshmark before, I also had a closet full of clothes I was selling. Some had been mine. Most of it was stuff that I'd picked up at a thrift store. We had for a tiny little town that I lived in, there was a fairly wealthy residents in some areas, and they would donate to the one thrift store. So I got some really nice pieces, sometimes brand new with tags on them still, for 50 cents to $3. But don't have that option here. There are 3 thrift stores. The only one I've been to so far is the most popular. It has the largest turnover of items, but their prices on clothing is high. I feel. And I don't like how they set their store up. They do it like a Goodwill does, which is all the shirts together, all the sweaters together, all the skirts together, and it's done by color. That's not helpful if you're looking for a variety of sizes. And generally, I've bought my clothing that I wear is either from a thrift store or Walmart, or mom bought me something off of Woman Within or something like that. Because it's at this point, it, for now, it is not in my budget to go out and buy brand new clothes from a fancier store. And it's a little difficult to find my sizes here. I could find sizes in Texas. Colorado is a whole different story. Colorado has the lowest obesity rate in the United States. People here are so active, and it doesn't matter what age they are. The only overweight people that you're going to find here are those that have a medical issue as to why they are overweight. Um, and sometimes it's a medical issue that has slowed them down. They are no longer active at all. Um, I'm not real sure why. I always have been. Part of it, I'm sure, is the non healthy diet I grew up with and continued to eat for years. Um, but I have found that keto is the one and only thing that has worked for me. It does take more money to stay on it. That's why right now I'm about half, 50 to 75% trying to be keto. And some of the things that I eat are what some people refer to as dirty keto, which is like hot dogs or something that have stuff in it we shouldn't eat a lot of. I do what I can. I do what I can afford to do at this time. Um, Another 9 months, when I start getting Social Security, that may be a whole different story. We do have a nice little food pantry here. It's not like the food bank I went to in Texas, um, but it does tend to have healthier food. There are a lot more fresh vegetables and fruits available, which was not always available with the food bank in Texas. Here, it's a food pantry, not a food bank that's like government run, although they do get some of those items. Um, it's donations from local grocery. We have two grocery stores in town. So they get donations from there. They get donations from bakeries. They get donations from some of the places that do like home delivery foods. Can't remember which one it's called. It's not Schwann's. There's another one that does like home delivery of foods. And, when it's getting almost their expiration date, they're allowed to donate those by their company, which is wonderful because there's some nice, uh, almost ready to prepare meals that are frozen, and it's all fresh food. It's been frozen to keep it, but it's fresh food and it doesn't have additives and crap in it. So I do pick those up when I can. They limit you at this when they don't care how many people are in your family. When you go in, you're allowed, one or two. Sometimes in canned goods you can get three things, but you can go every week. So it doesn't cover everything, it doesn't hold everything, but it covers a lot. Um, I look at the sale papers for the two grocery stores, um, and so I watch those, and that's when I'll pick up the butter and the eggs and so forth. Although our Dollar Tree does have halfway decent freezer section. It's like the smallest Dollar Tree I have ever seen. Um, But they do generally, unless they run out, they generally have eggs, a dozen eggs. They generally have some lunch meat. The most economical, as far as the amount that you get for your dollar, is like bologna. They do have hot dogs that are okay. Um, they do have some nice breakfast sausage that costs 4 times as much at the local grocery store for the exact same thing. So I do generally pick up that. Um, but anyway, I don't know how I got off on that. Rabbit trail, hello. Anyway, I do like to cook and I do like to can. And I've taught other people how to do canning, I've taught other people how to do genealogy. Um, Pretty much any craft. I like to do a lot of different sewing and needlework, embroidery. Um, I love to do embroidery. If I could just sit and do that all day, I would probably be, in heaven. Maybe God will let me do that up there. I read a lot, um, try and learn new things, and I'm growing with all of this because I'm having to learn how to cook things a little bit differently, and I'm having to push myself to make some changes in how I make some of my crafts to be more creative, to be different, and not just the same thing over and over and over. I'm having to learn how to cook at high altitudes. We're at 7,703 feet in this little town. So, yeah, that was different. Took me 2 months to be able to breathe without having to take something to get enough oxygen in me. Yeah, because I came from near sea level. So that was interesting. Learning to live in winter again. I haven't done that since I was 21. So that's different. It's been a long time ago, 40 years. Anyway, I'm going to stop because we're at almost 18 minutes, which is pretty much when it cuts off. So I'll see you again tomorrow for B, which we'll get to that tomorrow, and we'll go for it then. Talk to you later. Y'all have a great day.